poppin' B? Purpok here, and welcome back to another episode of Race the Ramen, a show where I attempt to review something unscripted in the amount of time it takes to boil an instant ramen. And today we'll be taking a look at Sonic the Hedgehog 3, the movie, showing now in theaters. Alright, I'm going to start the timer right now. Now. Okay, so, Sonic 3. Some of you might be pointing out that I never reviewed Sonic 2, but that might also just be me projecting that people remember I reviewed the first one. So anyway, Sonic 3. The third film in the ongoing, I guess we can say surprise success hit that is the Sonic movie franchise. It's funny to think about. I mean, it's only been like, 5 or so years since the first one came out. And, man, the whole, ugly Sonic debacle and the fact that they had to completely redesign Sonic from the ground up to make him look like, his normal design and not completely destroy the movie's chances of having any appeal. Everything that led up to that, and the fact that the first movie was basically just, and I mean this in the nicest way possible, a very well-executed Smurfs or live-action Alvin and the Chipmunks type movie. Despite that, it's gone on to be a big success, and we're finally at a point where this series is not only raking in money. It seems like we're not going to get the end of these anytime soon until they stop returning the investment. But we're at the point where it's kind of found its footing, understands what works and what doesn't about this version of the Sonic universe, for the most part. And towards that effort, I think that this third movie in the franchise is the best one so far. I don't love it the same way some people seem to. I mean, the jump in reception from the first and second movies to this third movie is actually pretty big. The first two movies definitely have their fans, but the critical reception, just general audience reception, was a huge leap for 3. So I was like, okay, what are we working with here? And I can't lie, I was one of the people who was quite excited for this one in particular, because there's all types of Sonic fans. It's part of the reason that they're never collectively happy, because you can't please all Sonic fans because they all like something different about the franchise. But I'm one of those people that grew up with Sonic Adventure 2, and knowing what I know about Sonic Adventure 2 and seeing the previews for this third movie, I was excited to see them adapt Shadow. I'm not going to pretend I wasn't. I was genuine, I was so excited. I have this, AMC poster for the movie on my wall behind me, which I keep next to the Christmas tree, which is right on my set all the time, so I guess Merry All Year Christmas. But yeah, I've been excited. And while I am a little disappointed we didn't end up with Robert Pattinson's Shadow, because that would have been cool, I am mostly a fan of what Keanu Reeves has provided to the character. This interpretation of him is streamlined. There's no space station part of the story, no giant lizard you have to fight in Earth's orbit, unfortunately. But a lot of the other cool stuff from the game that you might hope for is there. This is the first installment in this series where it feels unabashedly unashamed that not only is it based on a video game franchise, it's based on Sonic, which is a very silly but also very earnest and kind of wholesome video game franchise. For as cringe as Sonic can be, it is free, and this movie is kind of cringe, but it's free. The pacing problems of the second movie that I found with it on rewatch have been done away with. I mean, not every joke lands the same as the others, but there's a much better flow to the pacing in this movie. It's a little shorter than the last one, and I think to its benefit. It's got a sweet little message for kids about not letting your negative emotions take over your thoughts and who you are. Don't let your grief define you. You get decent character moments for pretty much everyone in this series that you'd care about. Some really good Jim Carrey moments. I mean, he's playing 2 characters in this, Eggman and Gerald Robotnik. So, in a pretty decently executed like split screen, green screen, whatever, actor acting alongside actor execution, I never even really thought about the fact that they are the same person playing two people, even though they literally look at the camera and make a joke about it, which made me chuckle, but was also like, eh. That's the thing. There's still a certain commercial, cringy, unabashed, like, young kid tone to these movies, which can be annoying. But I still feel like for a lot of the parts where it truly matters in the story and certain aspects of characterization, this franchise has remained lighthearted but has matured and found ways to do well with its source material and make pretty good kids movies that a lot of the fans can enjoy. And this is one of those. Hopefully that gives you a decent impression of what I think of the movie. But yeah, rewatching the Sonic movies leading up to the third here, Sonic 1, 2, and I actually also watched the Knuckles show, mainly just so I could get full context for the Flames of Disaster! And it was actually kind of worth it. That show's not amazing or anything, but if you like this series, check that out. Anyway, back to the movie I'm actually reviewing. Rewatching all of that, yeah, I think Sonic 3 is the best overall film in this franchise. And I'm mostly rating it as like an overall kind of popcorn, mainstream family movie. But as a fan of this series and as a fan of movies, I can see a lot of positives in this. And I'd say, well, it's no masterpiece or like I don't know, like peak entertainment like some people are saying. I think it's worth a watch, and if you haven't gotten into these movies before and think maybe you'd like them, or maybe your kids would like them, or something like that, yeah, I'd say it's worthwhile to get into, because there's a lot of crap out there that you can show your kids, and you will be exposing them to Sonic, which is in itself like an unfathomable rabbit hole that I don't think anyone has any true control over. But hey, good Sonic movie, good fun popcorn action-y kind of fun movie, and a decent way to top off the holiday season with some, excuse me, I have hiccups because I'm a human being afflicted by all the horrors of same. But anyway, Sonic movie good, and I would give Sonic 3 a 7 out of 10. The highest I think I'd rank any of these movies. I'm pretty sure I gave the first one a 6 when I originally reviewed it. I've seen it like 3 or 4 times now because I have a soft spot for it, I'll be honest. But it's still a 6. It's like the 6 out of 10est 6 out of 10 movie ever. And I kind of keep my stance on that. Second movie is just about as good. Has a little bit of stuff about it I don't like as much, but a lot more game stuff. This third movie, tight pacing, solid characterization, a lot less fluff and exposition, and really just kind of a decent, solid little story. Again, aimed at a younger audience, but executed pretty well, with some really fun set pieces and, you know, generally good humor and tone that makes it a little more rewatchable than some. Yeah, Sonic 3 good. Let's talk about horny vampires now.
Let's all go to the lobby to get ourselves a treat.
And today we'll be taking a look at Nosferatu, showing now in theaters. Alright, we're going to start the timer right now. Okay, so Robert Eggers Nosferatu. This has been one of my most anticipated movies of the year, and it has kind of been a pie-in-the-sky dream movie of mine for a little while, because in case you're not aware, this is a remake of the over 100-year-old now movie Nosferatu, the original German silent film that ripped off Dracula and made its own thing. And then they ordered all the copies to be destroyed, but that obviously didn't happen because now it's public domain and everywhere, and it's over 100 years old, like I said. And Robert Eggers, a favorite director of mine and many others, who's directed stuff like The Lighthouse, which I've reviewed on this channel, and The Northman and The Witch, all very good movies, very gothic, mostly. He has been dreaming for a good while of making his interpretation of Nosferatu. And apparently there have been, other remakes of it in the past. I haven't seen these myself. I haven't seen apparently Werner Herzog made a version, which sounds interesting. Maybe we'll check that out at some point. And there's other versions. But knowing Eggers' affinity for period pieces, horror, like gothic stuff, just light and shadow, like his whole vibe, him adapting Nosferatu sounded like a pipe dream. And it was on the edge of a cliff of cancellation for many years. It was not going to happen. Then it was. Then it wasn't. Then it was. Then it wasn't. Then it was up in the air for a minute. And now it happened. It came out on Christmas Day, which is kind of bonkers. And I went to see it the day after Christmas. And what did I think? I loved it. If you've seen my other reviews and comments on Eggers' work, this shouldn't be too shocking, I guess, because if you're a fan of his, odds are you're going to like this too. But yeah, Nosferatu very easily slips into my favorite films of this year. Not my favorite. I would very much say not my favorite of this year. But it's way up there, top 5 easily. And there's been some good competition this year. Robert Eggers' Nosferatu remake is beautiful. It is gorgeously shot, excellently scored, brilliantly acted. It is really, really creepy, quite scary, violent at times. It's also, which might be something that might be surprising for some viewers, which surprised me at first until I remembered who we were talking about here. This movie is surprisingly sensual, erotic. I'll be frank, it's kind of horny. Very horny. It deals with it's like a hodgepodge of all these different themes that Eggers has rolled around from his other movies, like witchcraft and occult connection with young women, the roles of traditional gender dynamics across history, the power dynamics of relationships and occupations, and people's visions of themselves and how they protect their families. It's a lot. But it's presented in a simultaneously subdued and really unsubtle at the same time kind of way. Everything is paced just a bit slower than most movies, and yet it never feels like it dragged. This movie is over 2 hours long, and I feel like the pacing was really brisk and nice. Starts right up introducing you to this realm of darkness where there could be just evil lurking in the shadows anywhere. And it sets up this foreboding atmosphere of a true lurking dread of an antagonist in Count Orlok, the Nosferatu. And I'm sorry, I'm probably going to say the wrong Skarsgård. Alex Skarsgård? There's too many Skarsgårds, and now Eggers has worked with 2 of them. But anyway, Pennywise Skarsgård, I'll put his real name on screen. He is a great Count Orlok. It took me a minute to get used to this interpretation of him, because I'm used to the classic lanky, spindly Nosferatu who, while silly in a lot of ways by modern standards, is still a creepy visage that feels distinctly inhuman. And this take on him, while different, is really cool and gross and just interesting. That's this whole movie. Cool and gross and interesting and emotional and beautiful and visceral and gross and funny and everything. It's fucking great. It's a great Christmas movie about vampires. Hopefully, that gives you a decent impression of what I think of the movie. I could gush for a while, but I think you should let this one speak for itself. If you've never seen the original Nosferatu, it's free to watch, so if you want to know what you're getting into, go ahead. But if you're down for some horror, some slow build, creeping dread, this is some good stuff. Mwah. I don't know if it's Eggers' best movie, or my favorite of his, and maybe on rewatch my rating could go down, or maybe it'd be solidified, I don't know. There are a lot of things happening here, and he takes what feels like a relatively simple story, at least from the original that I and many people are familiar with, and kind of picks up all the pieces. It feels like a really meticulously thought out version of this story, where every piece was kind of deliberately placed with very clear intent. All the performances are great, really good score, and again, visually just, not to be vulgar or anything, but I'm kind of like a slut for good use of harsh shadow, and Robert Eggers really knows how to do it. And this might just be his coolest, darkest looking movie ever. But now I'm just gushing, and I'm literally starting to talk like comic book guy from The Simpsons without meaning to. So I should wrap this up and just say, great movie, scary, depressing, inspiring, hopeful, dark, and mourning, kind of funny, kind of romantic, kind of everything. Great. I give Robert Eggers Nosferatu a 10 out of 10, which I feel like I do this every time I give this rating, but it's worth mentioning. I don't know if a 10 out of 10 rating is ever reasonable for anything sometimes, because like nothing is perfect, right? What gets full marks, right? What's perfect? But this movie is about as close to perfect as I could think of from just, one initial viewing. And at the very least, a 10 out of 10 means my highest level of recommendation. If you can stomach, horror and a bit of, bloody violence. Not that this is a gore fest, but there's some rough scenes of blood in this, if that does affect you. But hey, on my scale, this is fantastic. I love this movie, and I'd recommend it to pretty much anybody who thinks they can stomach it. Succumb to the darkness. It's fucking cool over here. The Eggman had the master plan, and it wasn't Jim Carrey. What a twist. Hey, yeah. There's some good movies to check out right now. Not most of them are in the theaters, but here's a couple. And hey, Happy New Year's, everybody. Happy holidays. Merry Christmas, for those who I didn't, address earlier with that. Happy Hanukkah, everything. Happy holidays, everybody. And I will see you all after the new year with a bunch of new stuff. And whatever you do, go forth with confidence, stay safe, stay happy, and don't forget to live and learn, hanging on the edge of tomorrow.